just before I start this talk, I just want to say there's no artificial intelligence chatbots used in the design or the making of this video. How do I know that? Well, because they didn't exist in 1982, and that's when this story starts. I was just finishing off at school, doing my exams, and most young lads at the time, I used to like a lot of fun, a lot of laughter and mucking about on the way home from school. And this day was no different to any other day until I approached my house down my road. And I noticed my dad's car was in the driveway, which was a bit strange because he never used to get home until, about 6:30. And this was 4:30 in the afternoon when I was with my friends. So I was a little bit apprehensive as I walked into the house and through the kitchen and into the lounge area, when I saw my dad sat in his chair with his head in his hands and he was crying. And I thought, this is strange. My dad doesn't cry. Dads don't cry. And I said, what's the matter? And he said, they don't need me anymore. What do you mean they don't need you anymore? Everyone needs my dad. And my dad was a very clever man. He worked as a scientist in the production of precious metals. And he said, no, they don't need me anymore. I've been made redundant. And I thought, my dad doesn't get made redundant. My dad's invincible. And as time went on, he would say to me that he never saw it coming. But unfortunately, he didn't have transferable skills. It was very difficult for him to find another position. And he hit a very difficult time in his life and bad health. And it was a bit of a sad and very, very sad time. And as this was happening, as I said, I was finishing my exams at school and I was going out into the big wide world of work. And I got my first job at the age of 16 working for a life assurance company, which I really enjoyed to start with. And I was responsible for writing financial planning reports to help people make the provisions for inheritance tax and capital gains tax, and also for the provision of school fees. And it was really interesting, and I've always sort of had that interest in finance and still do. But a certain day came along when my manager had to sit me down and give me an appraisal. Now, I wish I could remember her name. If she ever watches this, please do get in contact. Her name was Sarah. And she sat down and had to give me some quite challenging feedback. And it went a bit like this. David, we like having you in the office. You're good fun to have around. I liked a bit of a laugh and a joke at times. Sometimes a bit inappropriate, but that's another story for another day. She then went on to say, let's say your work is of a satisfactory nature, but you must be the biggest pain up the arse I've ever had to manage. Please let me find you another job. And she was right. I found it quite interesting, but I used to get so bored. So she encouraged me to leave, which was great. And I went off, did a bit of travelling, went through lots of jobs until I found out what I really wanted to do. Be a trainer, be a coach, be a speaker. But in the intervening years, I had lots of different jobs. And what struck me also was that whilst my time at the insurance company, that there was lots of my dads there. Lots of people had been in the same job for many years, doing the same thing. And you could argue sort of very much in their comfort zones and very much in their routine of life. They were happy, it was great. But then unfortunately for a lot of them, they also got made redundant because a big insurance company, a French company, bought the company I was working for out. And a lot of them lost their jobs. And it really got me thinking at the time, whilst I was going through my own sort of finding out what I really wanted to do. And it hit me. If I don't look after myself, who's going to do it for me? And obviously at the time I didn't know about future-proofing yourself. That's something I've learned about in recent years. And looking back though, there's three things that I always tried to focus on. And one was always to be learning, because I think that's really important. Although academically I struggled, I came away with one positive exam result, I should say. Two, always be networking. I always to find it interesting talking to lots of different people about what they do and how they do it. And three, I've always been good at thinking, but what next? So let's move the years on, and it's now obviously 2023, and I now have conversations with lots of people in different businesses, and some of them times they're young adults coming into the working world as apprentices or graduates, and I get invited to talk on their induction programs, or I'm talking to young adults who want to be entrepreneurs and set up their own business. And I normally start off by saying to them, welcome to the next 55 years of your life. And they look at me rather strangely, because how are you going to keep yourself relevant and valued for the next 55 years? And it's obviously something they haven't really thought of. But it's about this constant learning and developing that we talk about and have all sorts of discussions. And it's really interesting. People that have set up to work in corporations, and also people that want to set up their own businesses. The second group of people I talk to are people that are sort of perhaps middle managers in organisations. They're in their 30s and 40s, and technically they're very good at what they do. They work too hard, take too much on. They don't necessarily empower particularly well, but one thing they do seem to neglect, and that's their personal development. Where are they going with all of this? How are they keeping their skills up to date? Because I do worry about some of them in today's environment getting a tap on the shoulder and someone saying, hello, we don't need you anymore. Because there's jobs that are now existing that didn't exist 3 months, 6 months, 9 months ago. And there's going to be jobs that are in 3, 6 and 9 months that don't exist now that will exist. So these people in these organisations, and also people running their own businesses that have been doing the same thing for long periods of time, need to make sure that what they're talking about and what they have to offer has relevance and value. And these are two really important words that I'm always talking about, having this relevance and value. So people want to keep us employed, whether we're in a corporate organisation or working for ourselves in our own business. The third group of people I seem to have a lot of conversations with are people in their middle to late 50s. And I sometimes look at the mirror of myself when I have these conversations, and they've got to carry on working for say another 8 or 9, 10 years until they have enough money in their pension pot to be able to retire. And a lot of them, do look at the working world, whether they're running their own companies or even if they're in organisations, and they think, can't I just leave it now? But then some of them find it very interesting and embracing. And I'm having 2 conversations with a couple of people at the moment who work for an organisation that was family run in the pharmaceutical business. And things were going along very smoothly, very nicely, until suddenly the family business decided to sell up. And they've gone and sold to a big American organisation. And the 2 people that I'm coaching at the moment really don't know what's hit them. They've got new processes, new KPIs, new ways of working, new ways of technology. And not to mention the new terminologies that are also used and acronyms in the business. And they're really starting to find it a struggle. How do I keep being relevant and value? And that's what future-proofing is all about. So I talked to them about these 3 areas that I've already mentioned, but I want to go into those 3 areas in a lot more detail. And that's what I want you to take away from this talk. The first one, as I said already, is always be learning. Now, I think it's important to learn for 2 reasons. One is to develop our confidence, because more you learn, more confident you become. And I think it's a really good learning from your experiences when you have to go and perhaps deliver a difficult presentation, a difficult conversation, facilitate a meeting, or move into a new area of responsibility. We need to be learning all the time and learning from these experiences. But whilst we're learning, which is the second part, is we need to be building not just our confidence, but our competence, our skill set, our knowledge, our wisdom, our learning, our experiences. And the 2 go together, because as we learn more, we become more competent. And as we become more competent and learn these new skills and new ways of doing things and knowledge, our confidence goes up. And more competent we become, we're prepared to go outside our comfort zone and develop our responsibilities and new ways of doing things. So our confidence then goes up to get involved in new areas. So our confidence and competence go hand in hand. They drive each other. So how do we manage this? Well, I think there's a few really important questions that we should be asking ourselves on a regular basis. And you might want to stop this video and actually have a think about them. The first question is, what's gone well for you recently? There's a thought. Quite often we're very good at telling people what's gone wrong or how difficult things are or how challenging everything is. But my viewpoint is that when we are going through challenges and we are going through difficult situations, we should embrace them, because this is a great opportunity to learn. So yeah, what's gone well? Look at all the different challenges and things that we get faced with, and actually sort of, change our mindset and realise that actually these are challenges, but these are real positives, because I'm going to develop here and I'm going to improve myself. So always be asking yourself what's gone well, and if there are negatives in that, okay, but I've dealt with the situation, and flip it into a positive. Because along with this conversation is, what have you learned about yourself? Have you become more resilient? Have you become better at asking questions and listening, being present? Have you become technically focused on your work? Have you become a lot more agile? Have you become a lot more adaptable? And it's starting to realise, not just thinking about what you've learnt in terms of technical areas, and I can now do this instead of that. That's good as well, because that develops our confidence and competence. But spend some time thinking, what have I learnt about myself? And this is a great way to develop our confidence, because, as I always say, that develops our self-esteem. And if you've done it before, guess what? You can do it again. So every time you get faced with a new challenge, you can look back and think, hey, I've done this before, I've done it before, I can do it again. And if we're doing it the first time, go and embrace the opportunity and the challenge, because I'm going to learn from this scenario. So there's two really good questions to ask ourselves. What's gone well, and what have I learnt? The third one, which obviously links in with this, what new experiences have I taken on? Have I been outside my comfort zone? Have I been challenged? Have I sort of had that nervous feeling where I wish I'd have put a bit more right guard on in the morning because I'm feeling a bit warm and fuzzy? There again, if you feel you're playing it a little bit too safe and you're not going outside your comfort zone and taking on new challenges, well, perhaps here's an opportunity to go and inspire you to do that. So 3 questions. What's gone well? What have you learnt? And what new experiences have you taken on? Really good ways to help you always be learning, develop your confidence and competence. So that's the first area. The second area that I want to talk about is networking, the art of networking. And where do we start with this? Well, I network for 2 reasons. The first one is linked to always be learning, is because my network helps me to learn. As I said before, I'm not academically that great at learning from, programs and education and things like that. But I'm very good at learning from my experiences, and I like to learn from other people's experiences. So when I'm networking, I like to think about, well, wouldn't it be good if I could learn from them? Well, in that case, David, stop talking and ask really good questions. Facilitate a conversation. Ask people about their experiences. Ask people about their thoughts. Ask people about how do they see the market in the next 5 to 6 months. We used to say years. I nearly said it then. But we need to sort of think, how's it going to change? As I said earlier, there's jobs that don't exist now that will do. How do they see the business perhaps you're working in, or other businesses that you know and associate with? What are their thoughts? How do they see the economy? How do they see the working environment? This is all what I call free information. And I think it's really important to listen and learn from people. And the better you are at asking questions, and the better you are at getting people to think and talk, they will actually like you for it. Oh, they're interested in me. It's a great way of persuading and influencing people to see you as a positive person by showing that you can be present in the conversations. So that's one side to networking, is always be learning from opportunities to learn from people. Because you know what you know, wouldn't it be great to know what they know? So ask questions and listen, all that free information. The second part of networking is always look at networking for future opportunities. So if you're in the corporate or organisations, it's about, promotions, it's about job opportunities, it's about changes in job roles, it's looking at where I need to be next and talking to people and finding out how they see things. Could I be up or considered for those opportunities? That's inside organisations, outside organisations. Who do you need to be networking with for other career moves and other movements instead of having to go around and apply for jobs, because we know that how challenging that is. Sometimes if we can build relationships with people, we can get offered positions or get offered to come and have a talk with them and speak to them. If we're running our own businesses, it's about future opportunities in terms of sales. And whether you call it networking or sales, I call it networking. Always be keeping in contact with people. And even when we're really busy, it is so essential to keep in contact with people, to keep those relationships going. Don't talk to people or don't approach people when you're desperate, either for work or opportunities or a new challenge. Always be doing it. It's a bit like buying a new car. You never want to buy a new car when you're desperate, or move house when you're desperate. And there again, looking at job opportunities and business opportunities. Never do it. Well, don't leave it until you're desperate. It's an investment throughout the whole of your career. And don't look at networking as if you're walking into a room and having to sort of shake people's hands and tell them how wonderful you are. That's not networking. It's just surrounding yourself with some really good people that give you advice and ideas. So there's always be learning and the art of networking. The third thing I want to talk about is always be asking yourself, so what next? Where am I going with this? So if you're running your own business, where's my business opportunities coming from? What does my sales funnel look like? If you're working in corporate organisations, start to think about, what next in terms of what skills do I need? What experiences do I need? What new qualifications? What understanding of technologies am I going to need? So always be challenging yourself, what next? And don't procrastinate on this. Even when we're busy, you've got to invest in yourself, because if you don't look after yourself, who's going to do it for you? I wonder where we've heard that before. The second part of always what next is, if you're working for yourself or if you're working for an organisation, what does the organisations need from you? What technologies, what new ways of thinking, what new ways of working, and really understand and perhaps start treating your bosses as clients, the companies that you work for as clients. If you work for your own business, well, they are your clients. And I'm always talking to people about what their big challenges are. At the moment, it's very much the hybrid remote working and very much all the different generations in the working environment, which is a fascinating subject in itself. So always be thinking, what next in terms of what are they looking for? What problems and issues do they have that you can come up with solutions for? As I said, if you work in an organisation, go and have these proactive conversations about the future. If you're running your business, we need to have these conversations to understand what their needs, wants and desires are for the future. So there we have it, 3 key areas that we need to focus on to develop ourselves, to future-proof ourselves. Because as I said, if we don't look after ourselves, who's going to future-proof ourselves for us? Good luck if you know somebody. So those 3 key areas: always be learning, confidence and competence, the art of networking, there again, to learn and to look at business opportunities. And the third one, always be asking yourself what next in terms of where you're going, in terms of your role and sales for the future if you're working for yourself. Plus also always understand your clients, the companies that you work for, what are their needs, wants and desires. Now, as I said, there was no artificial intelligence chatbot used in the use of this talk, but perhaps we can use some of that technology to help us to develop ourselves. Whichever way you do it, it's one for thought for the future. We always need to be future-proofing ourselves. So just make sure you hang on tight and enjoy the journey. Thank you for your time.